Do you ever wonder, why do I always seem to give so much more than I get? All I want is to be appreciated and loved. Is that asking too much? Why do all the jerks get the hot girls while I get stuck in the friend zone? When will it ever be my turn? If this sounds like you, you're in the right place. Welcome to The Nice Guy Show. This is the podcast that asks the question, how do I break free from the nice guy syndrome so I never have to come in last again? Now here are your hosts, Faisal Coker and Chuck Chapman.
Do you know the one thing that turns women off, but your mother encouraged it? It's comfort. And most guys are now suffering from this. Most nice guys find comfort in everything they do. But what's happening is the more comfort they're looking for, the more it's affecting their relationships, their intimacy, their sex life, and also their work. Comfort is ruining our relationships and ourselves. So how is comfort affecting you? I'm here with Ari and Chuck Chapman to discuss about ways that nice guys seek comfort and what it means. So gentlemen, comfort. How does comfort show up in your life?
I like how you talked about it. It's like a pandemic of comfort. It's just everywhere, omnipresent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think nice guys are very much prone to wanting to have comfort. I think that, nice guys in general want a problem-free, smooth life. What's more problem-free than a life of comfort? And so we have this covert contract with the world, basically says that if I do everything that everybody else wants, then everybody else, if I meet everybody else's needs, they'll meet my needs. And that my need is basically, I don't want to do anything. And I know that's something like even in my relationship with my wife, on the weekend, she'll give me a list of things that she wants done. And I'm just like, oh, I just don't want to do anything, So like, why can't we just not do anything and just sit in comfort all weekend long?
Like Netflix and chill.
Netflix and chill.
That's it.
And I can tell you from experience, it turns her off. She doesn't want that. She wants me to show up and to help around the house and all those kind of things. And I don't want to do that. So I resist. And when I resist, then, she gets pissed. And then when she gets pissed, I get no gist. If you know what I
mean. So does that mean us men, we can't just sit down and have a moment just to have, relax and chill? And, what are your vices that you want to just do? Ari, what do you want to do with your comfort? What shows up?
I like to comfort myself with food. Like I got a sweet tooth, so I can go hard on candy, pizza, fried chicken, and I'm not just it's not just the type of food, but it's the quantity. Like I just want to keep going. So and I'm conscious of that. It's a self-soothing thing, but I can go totally unconscious very easily. So I think that's one aspect of this, is that these are automatic behaviors that we can kind of get wired in early on. Like, I mean, I grew up in a household where my mom was always baking things. She's still baking things, so I could very easily fall into that. I equate baked goods with feeling good and meeting my needs. So a little bit of that is okay, but too much is not. Other things, I know I've self-soothed with TV, with porn, with video games. So the list goes on and on. And, even recently, like I didn't want to fall asleep without the TV on. I felt like this entitlement. Like, I deserve this. Like, I have a long day. I deserve this.
Yeah, it's that voice, isn't it? That voice that keeps showing up, and it shows up a lot in, well, I deserve another glass of wine or another drink or something. I've been to the gym for 20 minutes. I deserve all the pizza.
That's right.
That's why I go to the gym, right? So I can have the pizza.
Yeah. Well, I can hear that voice. I can
Yeah,
justify it to myself. I can justify, soothing into my comfort because I guess there's a part of us that doesn't want us to be entitled but justify it. So I'll do something little just to
mm,
compensate for the fact that I can go to my comfort.
So now,
definitely,
when are you guys going to comfort? Do you identify certain triggers?
for sure. Ari, as you were talking, one of the things that came to mind was I can remember being, really young, 4 or 5 years old or something like that, going with my mom to the grocery store, and I would be bored. And so I'd start fussing and acting out. And my mom would go and she would get me a box of these. I don't know if you guys remember these little animal cracker boxes that, and I would just sit there and eat my animal crackers and veg out. So I think one of the big trigger for me is when I'm bored. It's like, I'll just go eat, or I'll just sit down and watch, binge watch TV, or I'll just, go on my computer and do social media. But when I'm bored, that's a big trigger for me to, like you were talking about, going unconscious, you know. So, yeah, I think that boredom, that's a big trigger for me.
Boredom
Um,
what about anxiety? I mean, that's a huge one, isn't it? When I'm like, for example, I notice myself when I'm anxious, and I don't always recognize I'm anxious because this is interesting. Did you know there's a lot of guys out there when I start having a conversation with guys and they come to me for work, they don't realize and they would never identify themselves as being anxious, but their behavior is anxiety driven. So, for example, one of the anxiety things I do was, I pace up and down. I'd be completely restless, pace up and down. I would come for to eat. I'd go to the fridge, then come back, then go to the fridge, then come back, go to the fridge, then come back. And these guys didn't identify themselves as being anxious, but when I realized that these are coping mechanisms, because we don't slow down and stop enough just to feel actually what we're feeling, is we quickly mask those anxiety with activity, and they didn't realize it's actually anxiety that's what's going on.
That's such a good point. And I was saying earlier that our culture really promotes so many of these behaviors that it just it goes without saying that if you're in the checkout line at the supermarket, you're going to get on your phone. You're going to distract yourself. You're going to it is comfort. It's not sort of allowing boredom. It's not being present with the situation. So, doing that for a few minutes at the supermarket, no, it's not the end of the world. But if this is kind of your main way of dealing with boredom, then you are soothing something.
Yeah. So
that's a
how,
great one, Ari. Boredom of, like, the phone. That would be one for me, definitely. Like if I'm sitting anywhere waiting for something, like, the other day I was waiting to get some prescriptions filled. What am I doing? I'm on the phone the whole time, you know? So I think that is a self-soothing thing for boredom, or even anxiety, of just the anxiety of having to wait for something, you know, and how do we deal with that? Let's go to the automatic dopamine hit, and start scrolling. That's a great point.
yeah, I think the phone gets everyone. It's got
Yeah.
a lot of, a lot of people, and everything. And here's the thing: when it comes to food, when it comes to social media, we are against these experts who are designing this to exploit our weaknesses in our own programs, because they know exactly. There's a really good book called Hooked, and it talks about how to develop addictive apps.
Mm.
And we are now in a place where we need a lot of help and support, because you know for me, growing up, the message I got was from, you know stay in your comfort zone, do do the easy things, don't do anything challenging or hard. Whereas you're waiting in the queue. I mean, like, sometimes I would go out and I would not take my phone. If I'm going for a walk, I leave my phone behind. And what I notice is I'm checking my pockets. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? Where?
Hmm.
Yeah. And then I'm like, calm with
Yeah.
this. So, guys, so what was like the message you got as in childhood about comfort? I'd love to hear what was the message that you got about comfort.
Well, I think going along with this conversation is it's it's going towards comfort and it's avoiding challenge and avoiding things that are hard. That's sort of the other side of this coin. And I think my parents were loving, but there was more focus on that comfort, and they didn't want to challenge me too much because they were scared that I would fall apart. They viewed me as a fragile, kind of sad, depressed kid, and on the one hand, I was, but I also needed more challenge. I needed to be resilient, and I needed to be taught that I could be resilient. So that was an additional message that I needed. So, you know, we're training kids all the time to not be resilient. Like I was thinking about the example of like you go out to dinner with your child and well, they've got to sit for 15 minutes before the food comes. And so, well, of course, you're going to put a YouTube video in front of them because we can't expect them to have a
Right.
conversation. So we've done this reflexive kind of teaching them comfort because now we have this device to soothe them. And I'm guilty of it too. But real talk, my son is in the other room watching YouTube because he had a day off from school and he's not at synagogue. So
Yeah.
guilty as charged.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, yeah, I'm thinking about like my daughter. This is, before phones, but I put in the videotape and put her in front of the TV. That was the babysitter back then. And, I think it's something that we all do. We know if we can distract the child, then we can do what we want to do. And maybe that's part of what we're actually doing is we're distracting our own inner child. That part of us that wants to explore and have freedom and create. I'm a bit older than you guys, Gen Xer. I was raised, we had 3 TV channels, and you know, we were outside riding bikes and hanging out with my friends and everything like that. It was a different time. But I think that my inner child oftentimes is the anxious one, and so to soothe that child, what do? Take out entertainment, and instead of like going out and being and doing and interacting with the world, it's so much easier, especially as an introvert. So much easier for me to just look at my phone or play a game or anything else, than to interact with what's going on in front of me.
Yeah, I can see how you I can I'm guilty as well of using, the TV, the social media, and say, look, hey kids, use this instead. And Ari, I love your point about, when you were being raised, your parents saw you as a fragile, you know, boy, and that's how I was seen as well. I was seen as, he's fragile. So the narrative I've got, and being brought up all around women most of the time as women, was, don't push yourself. The feminine is a natural security seeking creature, so it likes safety. So anything that was competition, anything that was dangerous, and I can see that in my boys as well. I've got 2 boys, and I can see how mum and we both approach things differently. When, for example, there's something, we went go-karting the other weekend, and I'm like, come on, fast, and we're gonna compete. And where she's coming from, guys, be careful, be gentle, slow down, don't go too fast around the corners. Whereas my narrative is like, we're gonna compete on this. And what happens is I see a lot of nice guys. What they do is they get the female template of growing up, and when they have that part, they don't get challenged, they don't get pushed, they don't get to see competition in place, they don't get to see hard work. And I think this is why a lot of guys are really struggling is, we have this Ari, like you pointed out, it is a pandemic. We are going towards more feminized guys who are seeking comfort over challenge. And I think this is a big problem for nice guys.
Yeah, and I think we want to be clear that we're not saying that challenge is the thing to do all the time, or that you shouldn't take care of yourself or have self-care. I think we we're suggesting it be healthy self-care activities and things that really soothe you, things that keep you connected to other people and the rest of the world, as opposed to some of these things that are unhealthy or more of a distraction.
Right. And I think, what we're talking about basically is kind of a centering, right? You need to have both. You need to have the comfort, the down times, and you need to have those times when you're achieving. If we're always seeking comfort, then we're going to be highly over in that feminine energy. If we're always seeking to strive and build and construct, and we never take any time off for ourselves, then we're in that just out of balance over in that masculine side. So it's creating a flow between these two places within ourselves. So knowing um, when you're exhausted, to be able to take care of yourself, to at the end of the day be like good to yourself, and at the same time not just always seeking comfort. And we want to be able to kind of move back and forth in between these things. The masculine being the doer, the feminine being the receiver. Again, we have both masculine and feminine energies inside of us, and so we want to be able to balance that out within us. So that's how I see it, is making sure that you're not too much on either side.
So how do you implement that in your daily life, Chuck? How do you achieve that balance? What are your practices? What are your habits?
Yeah, so I have to create some strong boundaries within myself. I create boundaries with other people, but actually making boundaries within myself, like the things that I'll do and the things that I won't do. And so I have a morning ritual where I get up and I drink my coffee and I come down and I do about 20 minutes of meditation just to kind of start my day. So before I check anything, I'm wanting to get centered with that. That just gives me a lot of energy and centeredness to be able to kind of go into my masculine and hit the day. At the end of the day, I have a cutoff time. I stop work at a specific time, and I have to really work. And I'm not always great. I don't always do this by any means, but part of it is I'll take my phone and I'll put it into a different room, so that I can be present. It's hard, because there's that magnetic pull of, like you were talking about, Faisal, of like, oh, where's my phone? I'm missing? It's the FOMO. I'm missing out on something, right? And instead of like just being in the moment, if I could take some time and just be, and center and be with my family or with my friends or whatever it is that I'm doing, practicing that mindfulness, I think that's one way to do it. But it's hard because there's always one or the other kind of pulling at you.
But there's
Yeah,
a
of
real
course.
consciousness about what you're doing and a real
Yeah.
intentionality about it, which I think
Hmm.
is something that people can adopt. Sort of a consciousness about comfort, about challenge, about having routine in your day.
Hmm.
That you really have to structure yourself in a way to meet your needs and soothe yourself in an effective way. There's a lot of skills involved.
And creating habits, the James Clear Atomic Habits, talking about how, I forget what it is. It's a high percentage of the things that we do on a day are mostly habits. And so you can't just stop doing something. You have to replace it with something else, you know. And so replacing checking my email with meditation, replacing, putting my phone in my office is a habit. Those are the things that kind of we can start to build on. but it's a
God,
conscious decision.
is email comfort now?
Right.
Do
What's the
you still
FOMO?
use
What am I
email?
missing out on? Yeah.
Do you still use email? So Chuck,
um,
so Ari, what's your routine or where you get out of the comfort zone?
the comfort zone. You know, like Chuck, I have different rituals, and when I look back, yeah, I used to wake up and I would I would get on the internet and read the news for a while. I'd take a long dump and entertain myself reading. Um, I, I was told by a friend that I'm a person where reading is actually a bad habit because I could avoid the rest of the world. That was a side
Mm.
note, though.
Hmm.
So it took me a while to actually develop really good morning habits and become the director of my day. That's how I look
Hmm.
at it. I've got to have the right habits in place. One of them, my current routine is my first thing is I get in the cold shower for 5 minutes and I listen to positive self-talk recordings. So it's like a 1-2 punch of just challenging yourself and getting your head in the right mindset. Then I journal, then I meditate. Um, I listen to self-talk with my son. So all of these things are really about starting the day off in a different state with high quality thinking and feeling confident that I can soothe myself. And it carries over the rest of the day. So, you're big on habits. You've helped me with some habits too. What about you? What are the ones that get you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, I mean, habits are, we are what we do repeatedly, and so habits was one of the things that one of my coaches said. If you want to change your life, you got to change your habits, and it's not just easy habits. You got to make them. You got to make some habits really uncomfortable. So, for example, I have, you know, morning rituals and evening rituals. Morning rituals is like not touching the phone for the first 1 hour, and then using that time to meditate, read something, learn something, and really take time out for myself. Other rituals, like cold shower. I've been in cold showers for 5 years. I don't start always with a cold shower, but end or with a cold shower, and I think that's something that every nice guy's got to do. Every man's got to do is something in the day that they don't want to do, something that's difficult or a challenge or a push. And, cold shower, I hate the cold shower. Even after 5 years, I'm like, I dread it. But I know that, everything that I want is on the other side of comfort. So everything, you know, we as men got to really push ourselves. So there is something in my day that I always got to push. And I've been reading a lot about Stoicism. And one of the things that it says that, one of the virtues is courage. And I'm asking myself is like, if I had more courage in this situation, how would I act? How would I show up? What would I say? What would I do? And this keeps ruminating in my mind is like, for example, if I had more courage, what would I be saying? What would I be doing? And what I notice is that it's allowed me to push myself because I want to take the easy route. Like nice guys, we just want the comfortable, easy route out. Here, I'm saying like, okay, what would it be like if I leaned into courage? So my rituals are mindset, physical, which challenge me and push me, and they make a huge difference in how I show up, and also for how my kids show up. Because for my kids, I always say that look, if you want easy, then you won't have the rewards of what hard things are, because they want a lot of rewards for a lot of things. I'm saying, well, then you've got to do the hard work for it. If you want internet, then you've got to earn your internet. You've got to earn your privileges in the house, because when you get out in the world, you're not going to be given them. And that's a message that a lot of guys missed. I missed this, is that we're not going to be given things on a planet, especially if you're a man. If you're a man, that entitlement, you can't have that. Not because like for women, being good looking gives her so many doors, opens up so many doors. For guys, it's our character, our hard work that allows us to open doors. And that's so important for that message to get across.
Yeah, you said some really important things there. I think with the cold shower first thing in the morning, it's a reminder for me that I'm a badass. I do hard things. You know, it's a reminder every day. You know, and I have that split second of hesitation. Am I doing this again? Am I doing this again? And I get in, and yeah, it's a little bit of discomfort. It's a reminder that you do hard things. So if you need that reminder every day, which I do, get in the cold shower and don't think about it too much. Another thing, Faisal, you brought up is, you know, you're having conversations with yourself, you know, about like, am I being courageous, or what do I need to get more courage in my life? Like, who has those kinds of conversations? So, somebody who has really worked through a lot of their nice guy stuff, you know. So you've got to be talking to yourself every day and cultivating high quality thinking, you know, whether it's through journaling, self-talk, having conversations like this is essential. That's one of my take homes.
Agreed. Yeah, you have to have, you have to become your own coach. You know, you have to be the one that, because nobody's going to come and motivate you except yourself, right? And like you were saying, we resist things that are difficult because those difficult things create a tension, but you only grow with tension, right? If you go to the gym, you lift weights, right? And you do that. Why? The tension. There's two things that will help you create growth, exponential growth, and that's tension and repetition. Tension and repetition. If you do the thing that you don't want to do that causes tension, and you do it continuously, what happens is that muscle starts to grow. If you just go to the gym once and you work out once, you're not going to grow, right? So you want to have both of these things, tension and repetition. And when we put aside, and what comfort is putting both of those things aside, is just putting that, I'm just going to relax. And what happens when you relax? You atrophy, you know, you die a slow death. And I think that, you know, when you look around, some of the people in the world who've just kind of given up on themselves and given up on life, and they do whatever they can to resist any kind of tension. Those are the people that are atrophying, and you can just see it on their face. Just this, you know, they're just dying this slow death. And I want to be alive. I want to be vital, and I want to influence, and I want to, you know, teach, and I want to encourage other people, because when I do that, I'm encouraging myself. I'm loving myself. And when I'm loving myself from a place of, you know, loving is doing, right? So I'm doing to myself, loving, and then doing to others. That's when I'm in that space of the masculine. And then there's other times where I'll be in the receiving part of it. But I want to create a balance. And just like working out, you know, you have to rest in between those reps so that you grow. Maybe that's the third thing: repetition, tension, and rest.
I love that. High performance resting. If you're going to be a high performance, you know, guy.
If you're going to rest hard.
How do you know when you're resting for comfort versus resting for challenge? Or
that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for that. I love the insights that we got from here. And, you know, comfort is, there's a time and a place for comfort, but also there's a time and a place to be challenged and push and drive. So appreciate you guys on the Nice Guy Podcast Show, and look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. So don't forget to click and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show, the podcast that helps nice guys move past their insecurities and fears into the fullness of their masculine strength and confidence. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast, and check out the website niceguyshow.com for more information on how to connect with Chuck and Faisal.
Until next time, keep living your best life.